I had an opportunity to talk to Elijah Brunson, a concerned member of the community. Elijah Brunson has lived in Crescent City for about 5 years now. Much of his work has revolved around working with youth in our community. In fact, there was a time way back when I was still just a Redwood Voice intern at the old location, and he happened to work in the same office, so I've personally been a bit familiar with his work and involvement with the community at large. He has 2 young sons who he always talks about with pride. He recently posted a photo on social media depicting a piece of racist graffiti depicting the words hastily spray-painted, quote, "White Lives Matter More." The post garnered quite a bit of attention. Elijah reached out to Redwood Voice with the photo, hoping to inform us of the graffiti. I asked to interview him in order to get both the situation documented and get his thoughts on the matter. While he discusses both the vandalism of the California Endowment billboard and this graffiti in question, and how these acts of racism are despicable, he also talks about how they are taking away from the many genuine problems our community is facing because of this division. I'll let him take it away from here. Sweet, so to get us started, could you introduce yourself and tell me a bit about what happened and your thoughts on the matter?
My name is Elijah Brunson. I was driving home yesterday mid-morning, and about maybe a mile away from the bug inspection plant out in, I believe it's Gasky, I noticed some graffiti on this K-rail on the left. And then I was like, okay, I didn't see what it was. And I kind of saw the tail end, it said matter. And I was like, oh, okay, but then I was like, I think it said what I thought it said. So I had to do a U-turn. I drove by pretty fast by it because there was cars behind me. And I was like, okay, I didn't see it again. So I finally drove back heading towards town here. And I pulled off at top and walked back. I was like, oh man, I need to take a photo of this and send it to people because something is not right about this. These are like major interests. First, it was like the defacing of the one entering town on the 101. Then it's this coming on the 199 coming from a corridor Cave Junction area. And it's like, what message are we sending as a community leaving with such just open like discrimination and like just racism? It's like, that's not promoting community. If people are coming from outside of area, I've met personally people of diverse backgrounds coming over here camping out at the river, even out at the beach, who've done different stuff, and it's just difficult for people to see that and feel like they're welcome in a community. So it's just like seeing that and just feeling the way I'm feeling. I'm like, it's difficult to feel like you're welcome in a community as a quote unquote outsider. I've been called just last year. Here's an incident I'm going to bring up. I have 2 small sons, school-age sons here in Delnor schools. I've been coaching them for years, coached numerous kids in this community here. Out at soccer field here by a resident of Delnor, I was called an outsider. You need to go back to where you're from. And I was like, really? I kind of pondered. I was like, well, what is an outsider? Like, I don't know. I'm here coaching your kids, but you're referring to me as an outsider. And that statement stuck with me for a while because it's just like, well, why am I considered an outsider? Is it because the color of my skin? Like, well, I care about kids, care about people. Like, I grew up in Southern California in a very diverse city in Oceanside, Southern California, and I've never experienced anything like that. I briefly went to school in Montana and West Virginia, experienced little spurts of little racism, like, hey, not being served in a restaurant in up in Billings, Montana, and then out in where is it? Like, we're in West Virginia, small town out there. I just don't think that's a good statement or good representation of Delnor County. Defacing a billboard, regardless of how you feel about the billboard, and the graffiti of that statement entering town. Those are 2 major interests in the town. On my post, on an Instagram post, I tagged Visit Delnor County because I'm like, you should know about this. People are seeing this. This is what you telling people to come visit, not these pictures of Point St. George or whatever, the various trails or viewpoints. People are seeing this. People see that too. I would hope whoever decided to deface the billboard and whoever wrote that derogatory statement, I would be open to a dialogue. Open dialogue on Zoom, however you want to talk about it. We can sit down and talk about this. Social distancing applies, but why do you feel like that statement, those tactics are going to get your message across in the best way possible. Why? But like, to see the divisiveness, it's saddening, because we got so much stuff going on with our community here. To have such open discrimination and divisiveness it's sad.
What kind of issues have you noticed in the community?
We have kids going to be out of school in upwards of 8 months. We got parents struggling to wonder where their next bill is coming from. And then you have this on top of that. It's like, come on, like, we need to come together as a people, not be worried about this divisive racial stuff. That it matters, but it's not like the bigger picture. Literacy rates are bad. Children are not in school. Children are getting abused. Like, child abuse rates are up. Even here in Del Norte, people probably don't even realize that, but they're so focused on a billboard that has Black Lives Matter and other ethnic minorities, dreamers, and things like that. They don't even realize that literacy rates are struggling here. And it's just, we need to come together. It's enough with the divisiveness and people just separating each other. It's just hurting. Like, I was really, really, really hurt. I never felt more betrayed as a person than besides seeing that. And I know you shouldn't, as a 36-year-old man, you shouldn't feel that way. But I was like, okay, Del Norte County's different. There's all this stuff here. You hear little tidbits. But then I saw the billboard when I took my son last Thursday for surf lessons. And I was like, okay, maybe that's this person being angry. And then you see that white lives matter more. Why does it have to be that statement? Okay, you're admitting Black Lives Matter. Okay. And then everyone comes with this all lives matters thing. I don't even want to get into that, because a lot of times people do that and then they throw the blue lives matter, throwing different colors in there. And it's just like, stop with the divisiveness. I thought we were all from one race, the human race. People discriminating against people based on religion, sexuality, and all these other things. It's like, we need to come together. Like, our community here needs to come together. We have businesses struggling. Right now, one more major shutdown, our community is really, really going to hurt. Tourism's almost done I would say probably through Labor Day. And only so few businesses here can even survive doing the outdoor dining. It's just the divisiveness is bad. It's about people as just people, not about a certain race, sexuality, things like that. Like, people really, really in these times need to come together. There's people who struggle, really, really struggle in this community. How am I going to pay rent? How am I going to pay my various bills? I can't, here in the school board meeting, we have kids in certain departments, special ed, who are struggling, parents who are struggling with lack of another big issue that a lot of people aren't talking about, the mental health issues. Like, I have a son who's 8 years old who's talking about certain mental health issues, and it's like, he's 8 years old. He need to worry about being a kid. Like, my goodness, we have a lack of resources for that, a lack of counselors. We need to find resources and support for these kids, these teenagers who are dealing with anxiety, depression, amongst others. And how are we going to recover and help and support these kids? Because when we're older, in convalescence, hospice, how are we going to rely on them if they're not mentally able to recover from this pandemic or the shutdown or lack of socialization that they've had to endure? It's enough telling kids my kindergarten son who's looking forward to, I know he's a kindergartner, it's minuscule to some people, but his kindergarten graduation and possibly having a pizza party with his peers. It's like, I'm sorry, you can't meet with them. Certain parents, with COVID and everything going on, you can't have that socialization. We need to come together as a people. We need to figure out how to, with kids being out of school again, how are we going to regroup around certain things and rally around certain families who need those supports? Because there's certain organizations, I don't even want to name those organizations, their services are lackluster as far as counseling, therapy, and things like that. And they don't understand that these effects of being out of school are going to be lasting on these kids. They're kids. You should be a kid. It's enough dealing with you can't go to school. But then you dealing with this, it's like, my goodness. And let's figure out a way to help these kids with these issues that are going to arise from lack of socialization, these mental health issues, depression, anxiety, and how can we get more supports in place? Because we are socially isolated and the resources we have are few and far between. So how can we support these kids, these parents in particular as well?
What have responses to your post been like?
Before I got on this call here, on a Facebook post that I put, somebody put like, sometimes people are just tired of being told the way they should feel about whatever the Black Lives Matter movement. And this is not even about that movement. After, it really, really hurt me from the individual it came from, because I was like, wow, like I took to myself, I'm like, I never would have thought I heard something like that come from you, but that it did. It's real. Like you're as my brothers would tell me, like people are going to tell you how they really feel. And in this pandemic and a lot of this stuff you see with people protesting is like they're telling you how they really feel. And it's unfortunate that it takes this for people to bring their real feelings out. And I mentioned to the individual, you should read a book, Right Fragility, I believe it's called, or just certain just read more literature about certain things. If you don't know about certain things, don't agree with it. Like me personally, I don't know a lot about what's going on, but I know when people when that statement was made to me, people are tired of being told how they should feel. I'm like, that's you individually. I'm not telling you how you feel. I can care less about your feelings when I have to explain to my sons who are biracial, or imagine, any family of any person of color, ethnic minority, whatever. Even some white people are offended because they saw me sitting there and were like, I'm so sorry. They see that and they're like, is this the way, I was asked yesterday, is this the way it is down here? And I'm like, no, this is definitely not Del Norte County. This is an individual incident I'm documenting because I think people need to really know, because this is being asked of me. I'm sitting there with my iPad, taking photos of it. And the people are asking me entering town or going to camping, should they worry about bringing their family here?
What are some recommendations you'd make for the community?
Anything. Like for me, it's more of like, I almost feel like a hashtag should be started of this, enough and then hate, like H and then 8, because it's just ridiculous, because so many people are being divisive. And like I see, like my personal view on it, I've been very quiet about stuff, just reading people's sharing things and doing things and externally. And then I see people sharing certain posts and little things from certain individuals who are African American, Black, whoever you want to be labeled. Certain, I don't want to say the woman's name because I don't want to dignify her with any attention. Or there's 2 other individuals who are twin brothers. I don't want to dignify them by giving them more media attention. Like people share these individuals' posts and things, that's their personal opinion. And then they take it as doctrine and run with it because they feel like that is the entire way everyone should feel. I just like hope people understand that, things like that don't bring people together. And sometimes it takes an event like that to bring, you're going to kind of awaken certain people who you don't want to awaken and open their eyes to things and have them be more appraised and more vigilant and more active with calling people out on discrimination and racism and bigotry. And I just think people need to be more vigilant on how they share posts on social media and do certain things, because it's more of like, you may not feel that way, but the statement I've heard from numerous people is like, oh, you're fine, you're okay. I didn't mean that. That's justice towards different people. And it's like, how is it not when you're saying certain thing about a certain ethnic race of people, but it's not directed towards myself? That's what I've heard numerous times by people resharing posts and saying certain things. And, I don't know what's going on in Portland. I see whatever the media puts out in Portland, whatever the media puts out in Minnesota. And I've had a close personal friend actually just go to Portland, and whatever people are putting out there in the media is not 100% what they're seeing. I saw actual photos of what's going on, how things are being portrayed, and it's like, I'm not even going to get political on. It's not even about that. It's just sometimes people need to be very vigilant of what media is putting out there and what they're believing, because not everything is as it appears. And then even reading that statement that was written as a response, people are tired of being told how they feel. It's like, that's an individual thing. I'm not telling people how they feel. And like, personally, I can really care less about how a person feels when it comes to racism and discrimination. It said a specific race matter more. I'm not going to repeat the whole statement because I don't want to dignify it. It said a specific race matters more. What good does that do? That does no good for a community that's hurting. And promotes inclusion and, you know, whatever. Like, it's, I don't even know what the slogan was. Was it hashtag Delnor Strong? And I'm not even against that. Okay, Delnor Strong, let's be strong. Well, let's be strong in combating this racism and hate. How can we combat that? Because people are seeing that on two major corridors entering this town that is currently relying a lot on tourism, B&Bs, hotels, whatever we got going on right now until the next shutdown. So how can we combat that? You got a billboard that's the face that no one's even discussing. How can we rectify this? And then we got this discrimination by entry to town by major river point. So I just, you know, I just wish people would understand that, like, you know, I get your point, what you're saying, but you need to go about it in a better way. Like, you want to have that conversation of why you feel blank matters more. Okay, sit down and have that conversation as a rational individual, not defacing property and putting in a billboard display. As a community, we need to decide, like, is enough enough? Are you going to allow this to dictate your community? Or are you going to say, like, really say enough with the hate? Like, just let's come together as a people. You know, we got people making divisive statements and, you know, people in support, against, I don't care, I'm not political. But at the end of the day, people need to come together. The same thing goes for that, the billboard defacing on 101. It's just like, come on, let's rather than deface property, let's have these conversations and figure it out. If it bothers you, why does it bother you? If you're bolden and brazen to make that statement, why? Why do you feel that specific statement is getting across your message? Because it doesn't get across your message in an appropriate way. It gets it across as like ignorance and just pure hatred for everyone other than that. Is hard. It's hard when you promote one thing and you see such blatant displays of hate and discrimination towards a specific demographic of people. And I don't know if it's the Black Lives Matter, the movement, which is, okay, you know what, you hear about it, or Black Lives Matter, the sentiment. Because there's two different things, and I think people really need to understand that there's two different things that people are getting portrayed out there, and there's all this stuff that are getting portrayed in the media, and just there's a difference between the movement and the sentiment. You don't know, and then, you know, people throwing political jargon into it. It's all political, and put that aside. The facing of a billboard entering town from the 101, people saw what it was. White Lives Matter more on a K-rail entering town. Two major hubs entering this town and this community are defaced with acts of discrimination and racism. How can we as a community, or how can people as community leaders or whoever they are, figure it out and rectify it? Because right now, I just feel like, wow, I just feel like I shouldn't have to explain to people why I'm taking photos of a thing that says White Lives Matter more. And people are asking me, going to some of the campsites, I'm going to say the Jet Smith campsite, are they going to be safe? Like, I shouldn't even have to explain that. As a black man taking a photo of a White Lives Matter more sign, I shouldn't have to explain to them, yeah, you'll be safe, you're fine. Because I don't know. When I see that, that makes me question that. And I live here. That makes me question that. And a family pulled over and asked me that, and they're heading there camping. People whoever decision makers is, I hope they hear this, they see it, they know about it. Don't just paint over it. Painting over it is basically, you know, we're gonna we're going to brush it under the rug. It's water under the bridge. That's just people being ignorant. No, that's people telling their truth. And I want people to really live their truth with regards to a lot of this stuff, but people need to come together. This divisiveness, racial tension, it's like, I almost wish, and I want to figure out how to just have like a unity day, a unity walk or something like that, where people just come together. Obviously, we got social distancing and all this other complicated obstacles, but people need to really, really come together. It's not, putting all the political stuff aside or whatever, Black Lives Matter, unity, all that. You can put all your billboards aside. People come together as like, enough hate, H and the 8, because it's not going to do anything. It doesn't do anything for people. The divisiveness and hate of one another just because of the color of people's skin, it needs to stop. People being torn by political social media rants and things like that needs to stop. And it's just hurtful. People need to realize that when in times of adversity you come together, you don't drift people apart.
Stay safe, and Black Lives Matter.